don't think you should be encouraging Jonathan to take up gymnastics.
Oh, Angela, let me tell you something.
Is this about Brooklyn?
No, it's not about Brooklyn. But just about this time, little boys start falling into two distinct categories. On your one hand, you got your well-rounded, athletic kids.
And on the other hand?
There's Jonathan.
What is that supposed to mean?
Don't get me wrong, he's a great kid. He's a great kid. It's just that he's sort of... Well, he's kind of... Angela, he does extra credit reports without being asked.
He's a self-starter.
He collects stamps.
He has an eye for detail.
He runs on his tiptoes.
So do I.
It's too late for you. But there's still hope for Jonathan.
What are you trying to say?
Are you familiar with the term wimp?
My son is not a wimp.
The mother's always the last to know.
Why is it because a boy is well-behaved, intellectual, and a little uncoordinated, people call him a wimp?
Because that's what wimp means.
Hello. Welcome back to...
Hey-o. Oh, wait.
The Who's the Boss podcast. I'm Tori.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are here to rewatch and discuss every single episode of Who's the Boss. So I have a voice message from myself, but I'm gonna do it live. From our episode last time, because I watch every episode before I put it up. I mean, God, I listen to every episode before I put it up.
Right, yeah.
And when during the wedding episode, we were talking about how, like, it's Tony's worst nightmare if he was in a date situation for someone to be like, oh, so what do you do? And then he says, I'm her housekeeper. And then people get that look on their face. Mm-hmm. So then we were discussing, well, if they were together, then he would just be a stay-at-home parent. But as I was listening back, I was like, well, this is 1986. So even when our girls were young, or babies, and even now, I mean, we don't know any stay-at-home dads, do we? I think we've met a couple.
Yeah, probably.
But for 1986, he would still get that look of...
Oh, yeah.
What? You
right.
know, even just a slightly different look than housekeeper.
But that's assumed... Yeah, right. They're on it. Well, yeah, if he's on a date with Angela...
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. I thought you meant like any kind of a date. I see what you're saying. Right.
No,
like,
right.
I know that that's what we were
right.
discussing is if they were both on a date.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, like, Tony's thing
point,
is that she's too, whatever, high class for him.
Right.
So they would be like at a dinner party or something together as a couple, and then somebody would be like, hey, Tony, what do you do for a living? And then he would be like, I'm Angela's housekeeper.
Right.
But even if he's like, hey, Tony, what do you do for a living? I'm a stay-at-home dad. In 1986, I would have been like, really?
Yeah.
And then he probably would have gotten made fun of.
True, but I mean, even in that time, being a male housekeeper is probably...
True, yeah.
Like the fact he went out for that job just to get out of Brooklyn.
Right.
Is odd.
Yeah, that's
not, I don't
very
say
true.
Odd. It's ahead of its time in a way. Or,
right.
Like,
yeah.
why would a tough guy like that go for a... I mean, I guess he just wanted to get to Connecticut.
Yeah, he wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. It's just that he, it's kind of a unique situation for the time.
Right.
Okay, so today, and I have one little piece of news. It's not Who's the Boss news, but it is Alyssa Milano news.
Oh.
So there was an announcement that Alyssa Milano has been cast in the lead role of a Netflix movie where they are... making a movie based on a Nora Roberts novel called Brazen Virtue.
Yeah,
it's a 1988 thriller. Yeah, so she will be the lead role in that. Doesn't say anything about, who's the boss in this article.
Yeah.
So, but, a movie wouldn't take that long to shoot. So I'm sure if Who's the Boss is still in the works, then both can be done.
I guess it is. I mean, what's going on?
Who knows? We'll see. I know.
It's been awfully quiet since the announcement.
It's still up. Like, if you go to Act 3 Productions, which is Norman Lear's production company who will be doing it, it's still listed up there as a show that's coming. So we'll see. Okay, so today we're going to do Season 3, Episode 7. The title is Jonathan the Gymnast. This episode first aired on November 18th, 1986, and the TV Guide summary says, Angela blames Coach Tony when Jonathan returns from his first athletic competition with a huge cast on his arm.
Oh, boy.
It's a very literal description of this episode.
Yeah, that is, when you see that cast.
So...
Right,
listed for the writers here is a man named Stephen Kerwick, and he is listed as teleplay. And then there are 3 female names that we have seen before: Carrie Honigblum, Michelle Bueller-Glazer, and Renee Phillips. And for them, it says story by.
Yeah, I wonder if they wrote the story and he adapted it for television, made it more television friendly.
Yeah, well, my thought was that they wrote the outline and then he actually wrote it into the script.
I mean, same, yeah, kind of the same.
But that is a good question. If this was
maybe when they wrote it, they just wrote a story. They didn't write lines.
Right, yeah.
And maybe he made lines.
Yeah, I guess they.
I don't know. That's interesting what that means.
The only thing I was thinking is if it had been their sample script or something, and then he reworked it.
Yeah.
So they gave them story credit, but yeah, I'm actually not sure because these are all all of these writers seem to be outside of the main ones from the show. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so when this episode opens, Mona is typing on an actual typewriter.
It's hilarious.
And the poor thing, she has just finished the final draft of a letter that she's writing for Angela. She's so excited. There are no typos. It's all great. Angela comes in and she's like, now that I think of it, cordially, it just sounds too cordial. I think we need to be a little less.
Sounds too cordial.
Yeah. So let's go with sincere. Let's say sincerely instead. So Mona balls it up and she's so angry. And as Angela's walking away, she's like, nah, you know what? Cordial's fine. But Mona's already balled it up.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine. I don't remember writing papers in high school, but I guess if we did, they were on a typewriter. Or maybe we just wrote them freehand.
I remember taking a typing class.
I do remember that. I remember when I went to college as a freshman, my mom got me a Brother word processor.
Oh.
And it was the size of our printer now.
Yeah, I remember the word processors. They were huge.
It was so big, and it was even bigger than the normal ones because it was kind of fancy where it almost had a bit of a hard drive. I could store a few...
Oh, write some stuff and store it.
I could, yeah. And it was all I don't know, DOS or whatever, just the green writing and the black screen.
Right.
But yeah, I could write out my whole paper and then I could hit print and it was like a printer and would print it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess word processors were big. Because I just, in my mind, we jumped from typewriters to computers.
I know. I didn't have it long because then I did end up getting my first handy computer.
It must have been a short-lived thing.
At the end of that, yeah. I think my mom got this for me this summer going to college, and then I ended up getting a computer.
No, was it blue by any chance?
It was gray, I think. I remember.
Why do I feel like we had it when we met?
Oh, there's a good chance I still had it.
And we got rid of it. I feel like I remember seeing this.
There is a good chance I kept it. Who knew if I was going to need it again?
True, they would make a comeback.
Yeah.
Retro.
So Mona throws the crumpled piece of paper, and Tony catches it in the wastebasket. Very fancy.
I know. Well, that's Tony.
Yeah. And so Mona's like, the worst thing about working for Angela? And Tony's like, the typing? And she says, no, Angela.
Not nice.
I know. But Tony doesn't think. He's like, Angela's a wonderful boss. And he's cleaning up all of her other pieces of paper and throwing them into the laundry basket. I guess he's going to take that whole thing to the garbage. So Angela comes in and rattles off this list of things that Tony needs to do for the day because she's taking someone to dinner that night.
After he just said she's a good boss.
Right. But this is, none of it's outside of his job. I think he's even playing, joking. But she's like, you have to go put gas in the car.
Right.
And then go put whatever you need to put in the battery.
Which I'm trying to remember.
You don't do anything to a battery.
Well, I don't know. Maybe then they recharged them. I don't remember.
No, there were no electric cars. It was just a battery.
Not recharge. I meant recharged because the batteries take fluid. What is that?
Oh.
Battery.
Oh, okay.
So
I
maybe
didn't think
then
about
you
that.
you put that in. I don't know. It's not like now.
Right.
We don't mess with that.
No.
But I kind of remember that a little bit. So I don't know if that's a thing. Tell us.
All right. And he's got to pick up her gray suit.
Right.
So then he makes an off-color remark that I'm not going to say because I don't think it's appropriate to use anymore. But then he's joking around that she is a tough boss. But
oh yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like you wouldn't hear that on TV anymore.
Yeah.
So now Mona's still working on her paper. Angela comes over and looks. She's like, "There's only one D in Dear Angela."
I know, one D in Dear. That just means that Mona's had it.
I know.
Can't even type the word Dear.
So she has to sit there, but here's the thing: she's also crumpling up the pieces of paper that say what she needs to retype. So how does she? Maybe she has something written down longhand somewhere.
Maybe. Makes for good television just to throw it.
Yeah, and they don't say what day of the week it is here, but Tony wants them out of the house. And he's like, you have your brand new office, why don't you guys go work from there? But Mona's like, we work from everywhere. We work on the train on the way there. We work in the car. Yeah. And she says, Angela even followed me into the bathroom yesterday with a dictaphone.
Which I looked up dictaphone.
It's just like a recorder, right? Like an old recorder, yep. Recorder. Yeah,
that's all it is. But it was probably a tape recorder with a microphone back in the 80s.
Yeah, I bet. Like,
full-on little tape recorder with a handle.
I feel like
I had one of those.
Yes, like we had something like that. You put the tape in.
Yeah, it's like a little rectangle thing.
Yeah, and then it had a little microphone that
Yeah,
I think I remember playing with something like that as a kid.
Yep.
But yeah, so Mona's had it and she leaves. Now Jonathan comes in and okay, so it is a school day, so they must have been working from home that day. And he's all excited because it's report card day. So Angela's like, oh, let me see it. I know you probably got all straight A's. You did great. And Tony's like, hang on, like you're putting some pressure on him. Like, what if he didn't get straight A's? And they have a shot of Jonathan looking kind of like he could maybe be sad, standing over by the couch. But so Angela's like, okay, well, I know you tried your best, and that's what matters. So what did you get? And he hands it over, and it's straight A's.
Of course.
And she's very excited. She hugs him. Samantha comes in behind Jonathan, tries to go straight up the stairs, and Tony's like, nope, I know what day it is. So do you have something for me? So she's like, oh, I don't know. And he says, like, well, it should be something with a couple A's on it. She's like, how about 4 B's and a C?
Well, first she's like, he said you have something to show me. She's like, yeah, this new shirt. I borrowed it from Marcy.
That's cute, too, because that's a throwback to her and Marcy borrowing clothes with each other. But yeah, so Sam got 4 B's and a C. And she's like, is that okay? And he asks, what did you get the C in? And she says sex education. He's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, suddenly it's okay.
Yeah, but that's not okay. Don't you think you're going to end up with a kid who's pregnant if they get a bad grade in sex education?
Yeah, I guess so.
Versus a kid who gets a good grade in sex education?
Tony don't want her learning.
Right. Maybe he's just like, oh, good, she's not interested in learning about it.
Oh, know how to do it.
Yeah. So with Jonathan's report card, though, he also got a letter and from the teacher. So Angela starts reading the letter, and she's like, oh, no. And Tony's like, oh, did you get into a fight on the playground? And he says, no, I never even go on the playground. And
which is the problem.
Yeah, Angela's like, that's the problem. So your teacher says that you stay inside too much and that you need to maybe get an extracurricular activity. You're too serious is the problem. So Tony's excited. I'm sorry, if you can hear that, we don't have a fire going tonight, but it is actually raining in Southern California.
Another element.
Yes.
First we had fire,
we
have rain.
We bring you drag racing, helicopters, fire, rain.
Whatever we can.
Yeah. So Tony's like, he's excited about this. He's like, okay, great. You can maybe join a team after school. And Angela says, what kind of team? Like a sports team? And Tony says, no, the 6 o'clock news team.
Yeah, that was actually funny.
I know, that did make me laugh. So they're kind of like going through like what kind of team you could join, like maybe softball, how about soccer? But see, the thing too is like, I would think that at this point, Wouldn't Tony have already been playing sports with Jonathan?
I mean, I guess a little bit. Didn't we?
I mean, we've seen him like help. He went and helped catch when Angela was batting, and we know that they played basketball together and stuff.
Well, what was that episode where they were going to play on a softball team together, but then something happened? Remember, we even said it was left out, like there was no resolution to it.
Oh, golf.
Oh, it was golf, not softball.
Right. Tony and...
He's going to go do golf.
Yeah, that's right.
Him, right?
Yeah, how about
and
the
then
golf
there's nothing.
team? Yeah, why wouldn't they? Yeah, okay. But I know, but you know, it's 80s TV continuity. But yeah, I just would have thought at this point that Tony would have already had sort of a sports influence over Jonathan. But maybe just Jonathan's not interested or he's not great at it, and so he just kind of let it go. So then they're talking about basketball, soccer, no, and Angela's saying he needs to go out for something that he's good at. She doesn't even want him to like try something that he could not be good at. So she says, how about chess? And Tony's like, oh yeah, there's so much exercise in chess. But Angela's like, well, at least you've never heard of a serious chess accident. And Tony goes into his Brooklyn story. So, that's because you've never seen chess played in Brooklyn. So he tells a story about a guy named Morty Gunther who was sitting on a stoop in a very intense chess game when a garbage truck went out of control, hit a fire hydrant, and then the fire pump shot water across at Morty.
Very Brooklyn.
And he almost drowned. So ridiculous. So, yeah. Angela's not at all interested or impressed with that story.
No.
So Jonathan suggests, how about gymnastics? And Tony's like, okay, well, that's a good one. You know, I've seen you do a pretty good role, even though it was because you tripped over Grover.
Which Grover we haven't seen in a
We
while.
haven't, I know.
Where's Grover?
At least we get a reference to Grover. I wonder if we're past all the Grover episodes. If Grover would have ever gotten a credit and was on IMDb, I'd be able to tell. But
I know, but
I don't even know what Grover's real name was. They don't have, normally at the end of the show, it'll be like Grover played by Gus or whatever, but he didn't even get a name.
Maybe it was really Grover.
Oh, that's true. But then it should be Grover played by Grover. He should at least get a credit.
Nothing.
So Angela's not excited about gymnastics, and she's like, I don't know about it. And he's like, well, what do you know about gymnastics? She's like, well, I know that you probably don't play it with a dog, so I don't know. She basically is thinking that Jonathan's not going to be good at it. But again, he's like, that's because you've never seen gymnastics done in Brooklyn. Yeah. And he starts telling a story about Sister Maria Pacifica.
Right. Maria Pacifica.
Yeah, and something happened with her habit, and she tripped over a dog. But Angela's like, okay, stop. Can you please come into the kitchen? And Tony tells Jonathan, I'm going to finish the story when I get back.
Right. Jonathan doesn't care.
No. So Angela's like, I don't think that you should be encouraging him to do gymnastics. And he's like, let me tell you something. She says, is this going to be about Brooklyn?
I know, that was great. Great line.
But what Tony wants to tell her is that, Jonathan's getting to the point where he's going to start falling into two categories. One is like a well-rounded kid, athletic kid, and then the other is Jonathan. So I feel like this is the first time Tony's really voiced kind of that Jonathan is kind of, he's going to say wimp. I don't really know. I mean, I hate to use that about a child, but...
it's the 80s.
No, I know. But, this isn't... Tony loves Jonathan like a son, but he also probably would like a son who was into sports and, would throw the ball with him. He wants a son that's
Tony
also
Danza.
Going to be, that's going to be a reflection of him. And Jonathan is not that.
Tony Micelli.
Right. So he's like, he does extra credit without even anyone telling him. He collects stamps. He runs on his tiptoes.
And Angela has an excuse for everything.
I know. And I love that Angela's like, I run on my tiptoes. And he says, it's too late for you. Yeah. So,
she can't be changed.
Right.
But maybe Jonathan can.
But he sits her down and basically says, I didn't want to have to tell you this, but have you heard of the term wimp?
Mm-hmm.
And Angela doesn't want to hear that her son could be a wimp, but she's like, how come just because a boy is well behaved and, you know, isn't really rambunctious or into sports and maybe a little uncoordinated, people call him a wimp? And Tony's like, that's because that's what wimp means.
Oh.
I know. You know,
nice.
and it isn't nice. And I think also, too, this is sort of a stereotype that boys have always gotten. You know, like, if they're not sort of, you know, wanting to get dirty, what's Jonathan does? I mean, he loves to run around Brooklyn and, like, play with bugs and stuff.
If you don't want to do anything, like...
Yeah, he's just not good at sports.
Take a chance or do anything.
Yeah.
You're a wimp.
So Angela's like, well, would you say Einstein was a wimp? And then Tony's like, did you ever see him run? Did anyone really did anyone see Einstein run?
I don't know.
I don't think so. But so
what does that mean?
I don't know. Angela's all worried about him getting athlete's foot or getting hurt. I think her biggest fear really is getting hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And as a mom,
Yep.
I do understand that one because I think that was always one of my biggest fears before I even had kids was like, oh my God, at some point they're going to cut themselves or fall down or break something. So yeah, luckily our kids went into dance, which I guess they could still get hurt in, but maybe not as much as sports. But Tony's like, don't worry about it. And the best thing is that you have me as a trainer, the best trainer you could possibly get. So now we cut to maybe a few days later, and Tony is helping Jonathan work out.
Oh, that's interesting. I have a different version of that. I don't have that.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
so
the opening scene where he's pushing up weights.
Okay, so if you're watching this
I only
streaming,
have from his arm.
then it'll include a scene where Jonathan and Tony are on a weight bench, and Jonathan is lifting.
It's a tight shot, and you can't see how much he's weighing.
Right, and when they pull out, you see that there are no actual weights on the bar.
bench press,
He's just lifting the bar. But on the Antenna TV version, it goes straight to Jonathan doing chin-ups on Tony's arm.
Right.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about this garage again.
Oh, God. It's all over the place.
The garage. I know. So now the shopping cart's gone and the creepy clown's gone. There's like some kind of like Playmobil or some sort of model ship kind of boat
it looks
thing.
almost like a battleship or a...
And some lampshades. We got a helmet.
Stacked. And in the window are two bats. Like forming an X.
Couple bats in the window. Oh, it's like Fox Mulder waiting for his informant by putting bats in the shape of an X in the window. There are some mismatched weights on the windowsill.
Yeah. Oh,
boxing gloves.
What else?
Like this is kind of where Tony goes to hang out. Oh, yes. And then I also noticed that there's like a bed for Grover.
Mm-hmm. In front of the hot water heater.
Yeah, there's a hot water heater that must be Mona's hot water heater. And then one of those old cots. That did you guys have one? We had one.
Where was it? Right, yes. No,
one of those old metal cots that folded like a sandwich and then you flopped it
I don't think we
open.
ever had one of those.
Yeah, I remember ours pretty vividly.
What do you? That's a big thing. Where do you store that?
That's a good question.
Guess the garage, according to this.
Right here, the garage. In our house, I think it was in one of the closets. But I also think at some point because my parents owned a Carvel, and I think at some point they moved it to the office at Carvel, and that was like my little bed / couch. So maybe that's why I have such vivid memories of it. So now Angela comes in, and she's like, lady in the locker room, or the workout room, whatever. And Tony covers Jonathan up all cute, like she's not supposed to see him.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I have that either on this version.
Oh, really? When she comes in, what happens?
Oh, maybe I do. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
No, we do. I do.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
And so she wants to know how it's going. And oh wait, hang on. Now he's doing chin-ups here because I accidentally went backwards.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry, I probably threw you off.
That's okay. So, yeah, she comes in. Oh, yeah, lady in the locker room, and she just wants to know what's going on. And so they're going to go ahead and show her, like, some of the stuff that Jonathan's been working on.
Now, how long do you think they've been out in the garage at this point?
I don't know.
20 minutes?
Right. Do you think this is the first day, or maybe they've been working a bit?
I don't know. You'd think they'd been working a bit the way it looks.
Well, see, okay, so here's the other thing. Like, we know that Tony is a soccer coach or a softball coach or even a basketball coach. At no point did I ever think that Tony knew how to teach someone gymnastics.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Especially this level where he's, like, actually using rings and stuff.
I'm
like,
telling you.
I mean, I feel like you would start with somersaults, cartwheels.
Yeah,
you know,
pretty much
the standard
basic
stuff that you start with at gymnastics.
And Tony, of course, installed the rings.
Oh, yes. Got up there. And so, yeah, but not in the Tony Micelli. It's like, it's very Mr. Miyagi dojo. Like, Tony has him doing flips on these rings. So, and then my other thought is they must have picked gymnastics because it's clear that Danny Pintauro was a gymnast beforehand because he is quite good on the rings.
I know, he is.
And so as Angela wants to see what they've been working on, and so Jonathan spits on the ground. And he's like, no, not that. So they get the rings already. Jonathan gets up there. He's balancing. He is adorable. I mean,
he is.
His little tiny body. He reminds me so much of our Avi. Like,
I know, me too.
Just like a little kid who's very petite for their age, and he's just adorable. But he does, like, he goes up into a handstand, flips around, then he, like, goes back and does, like, another flip and a dismount and lands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All taught by Tony in a few hours, mind you. I read a couple books. Like, where did he learn?
And Angela is so excited. She's giving him a big hug. She's like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You're going to be the best kid out there. So we find out that Jonathan has his first match this weekend against another team. And it's on Saturday.
The Wilton Warriors.
Oh, do you see that?
That's who they're going up against.
Great, thank you. So Angela's like, oh no, Saturday, I can't go because I have to be in Hartford because she has a meeting with someone that she's trying to get as a client.
Oh, man.
So she explains to Jonathan,
That's
like, you know, now that I'm on my own, I have to work twice as hard and I'm going to have to do this so that I can get, you know, some business. At this point, they have to be struggling a bit because I guess they have the one account, but...
They had the rice cake
account, but yeah. But she's really trying to build this business from nothing. So she says, do you understand? And before Jonathan can say anything, Tony's like, no.
I know, all sad.
But no one went to Sam's drill team thing. Remember that? The two of them had their little romantic dinner. While she was in...
yeah, that's right.
Wherever she went for that.
Yeah, whatever.
But maybe it wasn't her first meet.
Gone to one, you've been to all.
Yeah, maybe that was a thing. You went to the first one, but you didn't have to go to all of them. I wish we had that. Yeah. Well, I've been to one of your dance recitals. Don't you really go to all of them? So Angela's like, you know what? I know you're going to be great. You're going to be the best little gymnast there, and I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to hear all about it. And then she's hugging him. She's like, "Oh, you're kind of sweaty." And Tony's like, "Yeah, and he smells bad too." So then he lifts up Jonathan's underarm and shoves Angela's face into it.
Okay, it's not strange.
I know. And I watched this scene way too many times because the closed captioning didn't say what they said. But it sounds like they're saying pitsy check, as they shove her face into his underarm.
Did you look that up?
There's a pit check, which means to just sniff your underarms to see if they smell, but I don't, or pitzer check. I think it's just like Tony's, little words for stuff. But all the closed captioning said was Angela screaming.
I know. It didn't have anything.
Because she was screaming. That had to be funny, too, for them to actually shoot. But I'm sure Danny Pintauro was not that sweaty. So now we're to Saturday, and it's the day of the match. And Samantha's like, I don't want to go to this thing and sit there all day long. And Mona's like, don't worry, no one's going to be even looking at you. They're going to be looking at me. And Samantha says, why? And then Mona pulls out pom-poms. And Tony and Mona start doing a cheer that they must have been working on. And there's no way that this is the first time Samantha's seen one of these embarrassing cheers, because they've had to have done them for her as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, they're not selling this at all. She really doesn't want to go. So they start loading everything up. He's like, don't worry, it's going to be great. And they're getting ready to leave. They go outside. They actually make it all the way outside
all the way
front
out the door.
Shut the door, and then they realize they don't have Jonathan.
It's going to be a problem.
So he comes running down the stairs.
Looking like Johnny from Karate Kid, or Cobra Kai. His redhead man in his yellow shirt.
And Tony's like, how do you feeling? You good? And he's like, yeah, I'm good, but my headband's a little tight.
I know, it's so hilarious.
And Tony's like, oh, that's because it's a wristband. And he takes it off of his head, and it's a little tiny wristband. So they're pumping Jonathan up, and they're telling him that he's going to flip and twirl, and he's going to do great. And they all go running out the door. And Samantha pulls a ski mask out of her jacket and sticks it over her face. Like, at least wait till you get there.
I know. And it's all on sideways.
I know, right. Like, now she can't even see out it. So we cut to the kitchen door opening and Samantha guiding them in. Mona comes in next, and then Tony comes in with Jonathan in an enormous cast.
That is apparently very heavy.
It takes up the whole side of his body. And it's like one of those casts where it has like a metal pole to prop up his arm. So now his arm is sticking straight out.
The cast makes no sense. It looks like there's a piece of a 2x4
Piece of wood.
in it.
I know, like...
What, is that to keep the arm straight?
I feel like
but it's like above the elbow.
I feel like they just gave a child some paper mache and was like, here, please make this.
I think they're supposed to be over the top. But.
Yeah. But yeah, what is the 2x4 for? Or not, whatever that little, it's not a 2x4.
It's a piece of wood.
A piece of wood in there, yeah.
To keep the arm straight, I guess.
And I guess it had to be easy enough for them to just slip it on and off of him, but that it would stay on.
And I guess it's elevated with the metal bracket. I don't know.
Yeah, because he broke his shoulder. He can't put his arm all the way down. So they're like, does it hurt? And he says, only when I bump into things. And then he hits Tony in the face with it because Tony's bent down. And then Tony stands up and he almost hits him in the crotch with it. But luckily Tony catches it first. So Jonathan's like, what if my arm stays like this? And Tony's like, don't worry. You're going to be fine. It'll heal. He says, look at my nose. I've broken it twice and I can still breathe or smell. And then Sam says, yeah, and I broke my finger and I can still dial. And then Mona says, I fractured my pelvis. And everyone starts laughing.
And Tony tries to stop her.
Right. And he says, and she can still dance all night long. Again, why is Mona telling her 9-year-old this?
I don't know.
Like, at some point, he's going to be old enough and think back and be like, oh, Grandma.
No. She broke her pelvis and then was able to have sex again. Terrible.
So to make Jonathan feel better, Tony goes to get him some ice cream or a piece of cake. Or candy, but Jonathan doesn't want anything. He's more concerned that he messed up and he ruined the match, and he's kind of feeling bad about himself. And then he almost hits Tony in the face again.
Yeah.
But Tony's like, you didn't mess up, but why did you try that really hard dismount that we hadn't practiced? And Jonathan says, well, we were behind on points and that was the only way that I was going to be able to win.
That really hard. What does Tony know about dismounts?
I don't know.
What did he teach them? Enough to compete?
Yeah, I don't
understand.
Hopefully he was taking actual gymnastics training and Tony was just
there's a period of time you don't know about.
Right. For 4 weeks he joined a team and then, really took some gymnastics. So they're trying to make him feel better, and Tony's like, don't worry, things could be worse. It could be a lot worse. And then you hear, I'm home, and Angela's come through the front door.
Yep.
And Tony tries to run away, because things just got a lot worse.
I know, like he just heads for the door.
I know, like, where's he gonna go?
I don't know.
Angela did not have a great day in Hartford. She didn't get the account. And Tony's like, why? I mean, you sent them dozens of letters, and you sent them flowers, and you hounded them, and you're out there on a Saturday. And she says, they said I was too pushy. So this is just showing an example of Angela going over the top to get what she wants. So Tony's like, well, you know, so she asks, so how did the match go? And Tony's like, well, you win some, you lose some. And she's like, oh no, he lost. And she feels bad for him. And Tony's like, well, that's kind of the good news. Because Angela's still in the living room. So she hasn't seen Jonathan yet because he's in the kitchen. Right. So he's like, well, you know, he'll be fine. He's okay now. And Angela's getting worried. Like, what is wrong with my kid? What happened?
I feel like this is how I would approach it with you.
Right.
Because I wouldn't know how to tell you that.
Well,
if something like this happened while you're not on your watch, but on my watch.
Right. Well, remember the time when on your watch, Avy got stung by like 8 bees, and you didn't tell me until the next. I wasn't there because you guys were camping.
Right, but she got stung by. It was not bees. It was like a yellow jacket or something.
I'm pretty sure that's a type of bee.
Well, whatever. Yeah. And yes, she was stung, and it was later in the evening. I didn't want to worry you, and she was fine.
Yeah, I just remember I didn't. But yes, so this is exactly the approach that you would take.
But I mean, it's camping, and we had Benadryl. Everything was fine. She had jeans
Oh, no, I'm
on.
sorry. A yellow jacket is a type of wasp.
Boom.
Okay.
So I was right.
Yes, you were right about the
right
actual
that it wasn't a bee
that stung my daughter several times.
It's a type of, what did you say?
A wasp.
Wasp.
Yeah.
Wow. They're vicious, those things.
I know, they really are.
Oh, that's how I know it's not a bee, because they can rapidly sting, and that's what they did.
Oh.
Because she stepped on it. They were in a little, it was like on a little hill, and they bury themselves, they get in little holes, and Avy was running up the hill and stepped on it. And they came out and went full force at her.
Poor baby. Okay, but this is a good, so what we're saying here is that this is a good representation of how a husband and wife may act in this situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Where Tony is in fact taking on like the dad role. So Angela goes into the kitchen before he can explain, and she just screams. So
he's like, so that doesn't, I don't want that to happen, or whatever.
Right,
whatever
yeah. He's like, let me explain. So, and then, So Angela goes in the kitchen. She's like, oh my God, what happened?
You don't do that.
What is this?
I know. And this ridiculously, this cast on, again, that's his largest Jonathan.
Right. And Mona says, it's a piñata, Angela.
I know, everybody just comes at Angela. He came at her with the 6 o'clock news news team.
So Tony explains that he broke his shoulder, but that he's going to be okay, and that the cast should come off in 6 weeks. And Angela's like, do you have any idea how long 6 weeks is to a child? And Jonathan says
Being
42
so smart.
days. I know.
42 days? That's funny.
And Tony's like, well, see, at least he still remembers his multiplication tables.
So then Angela just asked Jonathan, I want you to tell me everything that happened, all the details.
Every detail.
All the details. So
she says,
and then Tony's like, I don't think you want to hear it.
Yeah. I know this whole next part is really silly.
It is.
But she's saying, you know, like, the experts say that you shouldn't hold in a traumatic experience, that you should talk about it. So he starts going on and on about how he tried this dismount, and then he
really hard.
Yeah, he hit the mat really hard, and he heard his bones crack really loud. And it was as if you put chicken bones in the disposal. Now, Mona's trying to eat a bowl of ice cream that Jonathan didn't want. And they're all getting a little queasy. But it gets even worse. So then he's saying that the doctor put like a giant needle in his arm, and he passed out. And when he woke up, He was next to something. This would never happen to a child, I don't think.
No.
They were working on some other man who looked like he had been run over by a steamroller.
Right. Apparently his guts or intestines are hanging out.
But obviously, Jonathan is not at all traumatized by what happened, is the point. And now he's traumatizing all of them by these horrible stories at the hospital. So he's like, yeah, this guy had all this gooey stuff on the outside of his body. What do you think that was? And Mona's like about to throw up in her ice cream.
Yeah, she's had enough.
And then I think finally Sam just does go, like, start throwing up and runs away.
Yeah, she takes off.
Yeah. So
And Tony doesn't go after her. He just keeps listening to the story.
Right, yeah. He's like, okay, that's fine. And it's a long, like, if she's really ready to throw up, she has a long way to go to get to that bathroom underneath the stairs. So
that's true.
She would have been better off just going out the kitchen door.
All Tony does is point at her and say, as she's running out, and say, you can't keep your lunch locked up inside. Like, he doesn't care. She's going to throw up.
It's not at all helpful.
So ridiculous.
Oh, sitcom parenting.
Always with the one-liners.
So different, yeah. Okay, so Angela.
So, right, she says, why don't I take you upstairs?
Oh, yeah, so Mona's like, okay, let's get out of here because you need to
Mona
go
says, why
lay
don't I take you
down.
upstairs,
And he's like, I don't want to go lay down. And she's like, well, I do. 'Cause now her stomach probably hurts from all the ice cream and the gore.
It's quiet time for Mona. Mona needs quiet time.
Yes, that's what we call it around here when
it's time to lay down.
Yeah, I want to go lay down and everyone needs to be quiet. Okay, so now just Angela and Tony are alone in the kitchen. So Tony's like, well, okay, he's doing fine. And Angela's like, do not even talk to me. You broke my child. And Tony's like, I know, it was all my fault and I was supposed to look after him. So he really feels bad because he does feel like this was his fault.
His kid was doing some routine gymnastics.
Well, I guess he tried something that he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But still, that's not really Tony's. It's no one's fault here. He tried to take him out, and kids are going to get hurt, and it sucks. But
He tried the really hard dismount.
Right.
It wasn't that they talked about.
Yeah. So he does tell Angela, like, he was trying something that he wasn't ready for. And then he says that he's going to make it up to Jonathan. He's going to feed all of his lizards.
Yeah.
At first, he doesn't want to feed the big green one. So my assumption is that giant iguana that Michael got him, he must still have somewhere.
He's up there.
Yeah. And then Tony's like, okay, I will feed that one. So then Tony goes outside to go look for bugs.
Right. He says, I'll be out in the garage looking for bugs.
Yes. It just as
All
a
pathetic.
disclaimer, you're not supposed to feed your reptiles outside bugs.
Well,
But
it's the 80s.
yeah, but I bet even in the 80s, maybe people who own reptiles knew that. But TV never really.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it makes for better TV if Tony's
if
digging
he's
for bugs
outside
in the
looking
garage.
for bugs. So when Angela goes into the living room, Mona's getting a plant stand to take back upstairs to Jonathan so that she can rest his arm on it.
I know. Prop up the kid's arm.
So
It's already propped up, though.
I know, but I guess
No, I know.
like
so
this
you rest
way,
it.
he can just kind of rest it off the edge of the bed. So, Angela's all mad at Tony still, and she's venting to Mona. But Mona's not going to hear any of this because Mona's going to always stick up for Tony. And it's time for Mona to do her job, which is diffuse the situation, come in as the voice of reason, and get everyone back on the right page.
Yep.
Now, I noticed that as Mona and Angela are having this conversation, you can see Jonathan at the top of the stairs.
Yeah,
so at
as
first,
we noticed how we saw little red shoes.
Yeah, he's like sitting on the top. And at first I thought it was just Danny Pintauro waiting for his cue, but now I wonder if Jonathan is really supposed to be sitting up there the whole time because he does hear the end of this conversation. But, like, how did they not see him? Because he's sitting right there.
Yeah. That's all. It's TV. Sitcom.
Yeah, the same way someone can walk out the kitchen into the living room and no one sees them until they walk right up behind them.
Right.
And no
or
one hears the conversation.
Right, and somebody whispers 4 feet away.
Right.
They loudly whisper or talk low. You can't hear them.
Right. So Mona's like, this is not Tony's fault at all. Like, if anything, this is your fault because Jonathan is trying so hard to impress you and to live up to your standards. So now we're going back to the beginning of the episode where you know, she assumed that he was going to get straight A's. He did, but what if he didn't?
Right.
And this also goes back to the speech that Mona gave Angela about Tony in the episode Educating Tony. It sounds very similar. And I remember you bringing up the fact that Mona's talking about Tony like he's a child. Well, now she is talking about a child in the same situation.
Right.
And basically telling Angela, like, he was trying to do whatever he could to win because he wanted to come home and he wanted to be able to tell you that he won because he sees, like, how driven you are.
Right.
And that you always have to be the best.
Hard.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's why Jonathan is the way he is.
All right, well.
And Angela says, you know, I would be proud of him no matter what. Like, you know, all that matters is that he tries. And, you know, I'm proud of him. And so Mona says, well, you should tell him that. And Jonathan says, now from the top of the stairs, she already did. And then I love this part.
I do too.
This is
so
part,
funny.
I know. And this is a part that I remember as a kid. So as he's coming down the stairs, he's hitting every pole on that rickety banister.
Right.
You know what? Maybe that's what the piece of wood was for.
Oh, so when he slams it against the...
Yeah, and so that really gets that. Because if it was just like his arm in the cast, it may not have had that effect.
Yeah, and the band thing is just swinging back and forth.
I know, because that banister is already so loose. Yes.
Tony needs to fix that. He needs to work on that.
I think that's what the piece of wood is for.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, and I love Angela / Judith's reaction to him coming down the stairs.
It's funny.
I don't know if they're like worried they're going to start laughing. So... you know, he's what?
No, go ahead.
No, just like, you know, she tells him again, like we pushed too hard and it's not good for either of us. So maybe we should like take a step back, you know, and try not to be you don't always have to be the best. And she says, I'm just happy that you're in one piece. And Jonathan says, I really wish you would have told me that yesterday.
I know. Before I tried to do that dismount that they talked about. The really hard one.
So now Tony's outside.
I know, in the garage.
In the garage
crawling around
again.
the floor looking for bugs.
And I guess he's picking up spiders and he's talking. Oh, and you can also see there's a croquet set over here.
Okay.
A ski. I think I only see one ski. I don't know where the other ski would be. Looks like some rain boots on the windowsill.
This is so random. I mean, that's classic set dressing.
Yeah,
just whatever you can find. We got to fill a garage.
Right. Go to the prop
whatever
room.
you can find.
Especially a garage. So he's talking to the bugs as he's putting them in there. And then Angela comes in and says, what are you doing? And he says, I'm looking for Mr. Goodbug. Do you know what that's a reference to?
Nope.
So there is a really famous... I don't want to say it's a romance novel. It may have been erotica, but I remember looking up the summary of the story, and it's pretty terrible. But the name of the book is Looking for Mr. Goodbar, and I think it was a really popular book. It was probably the Bridgerton, which is really popular right now, of like the 80s. I think
50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, yes, exactly. Like the 50 Shades of Grey. Like everybody had it
book.
Or had read it or knew someone who read it.
Right.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that's a reference to. And so Angela says, you know, I talked to Jonathan and he's fine and I just want to apologize because, you know, it's not your fault that this happened. Jonathan is driven because I'm driven. And she says, I understand that now because Mother explained it to me.
Again.
Yeah. So she, you know, she just explains to him that she's going to try to be a little less controlled and she doesn't have to be perfect and not everything has to be perfect. And Tony's like, oh, so I can burn dinner. But, you know, like, honestly, the two of them are very similar. Like, Tony is also a perfectionist in the way that he keeps the house. And, you know, he says it's okay for me to burn dinner. But Tony would never serve burned dinner.
No. Oh, my gosh, no.
And we'll see later on in this series that he's very particular, like how the pillows go on the couch and how clothes are folded. So you have two people who are very much perfectionists.
In different areas, but yes.
Yeah. to deal with here. Yeah, I mean, they have very different careers, but they both do their jobs 110% all the time. So he's like, okay, great, so I can burn dinner, and maybe if I scratch the jag, now that probably would happen, that'd be okay. Or if one of these spiders got out and is crawling up your leg right now, and then she starts screaming at him. So
Always a jokester, that Tony.
Yes, always. Especially any reason to get Angela to jump.
I know, anytime he can mess with her. Which, cut to the final scene.
Yes, so now on the tag, Angela, oh, look, a weight bench.
Oh,
Tony,
my gosh,
oh, that is the
garage.
weight bench earlier that they were
Oh,
using.
right,
Okay.
that...
Oh, we got a cooler and
Jonathan
some
was
milk
working.
crates here, some rope.
Oh.
Like, what is happening?
apparently a kill room.
I like the football, too. There's like a football jammed in the open
Yeah,
drywall.
it's like anywhere you can find a place.
Yep, just put something there. So Angela's looking at the rings hanging up, and she's like, I've always kind of wanted to try this. And Tony's like, well, really? Okay, just go ahead and hop up there. So now she's wearing, like, the outfit she came home from in Hartford,
Of
which
course.
is like a business dress, full jewelry, heels that match. So he tells her to kick off the heels, at least. And she goes ahead and, like, grabs on the rings, and he hoists her up there. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive that she's holding her. I mean, like, how hard do you think that is to hold yourself up there like that?
I don't know. I mean...
On the rings with your arms straight down?
Not hard, but I don't know for how long.
Right, yeah. But we've recently seen Judith's arms in the beginning of the season, and they're pretty toned. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
yeah, she's pretty fit. So he hoists her up there, and then she's holding onto the rings, and he's like, okay, I'm leaving. And then he pushes her, so
Right.
she's now swinging from the ceiling.
He's like, I'm going to bed. One more thing. And he pushes her, so she's swinging.
So she's screaming, Tony! Tony! And it just goes. But you can tell that she falls, like, right as they freeze frame.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah,
that.
like she starts to fall right as they freeze frame it. I mean, they have a mat on the ground, so I'm sure she was fine. But yeah, it's just funny. So yeah, that is the end of the episode. Jonathan the Gymnast. Okay, so now, hang on. You did rating first last
How do you
time.
know that?
I remember.
Okay.
Finally.
All right.
Because I think we argued about it.
Oh, okay, that's fun. So you do rating.
Yeah, I'm going to do
Okay.
rating first. Okay, so I gave this episode a 7.
Okay.
It's a cute one. I mean, I like it. And I don't know.
What?
I always say that I wish that there were more Jonathan episodes, but then I don't tend to enjoy the Jonathan episodes, and I don't really know why.
Oh,
Like,
poor Jonathan.
I know he's super cute in this. I mean, the story's okay. There were parts that I really liked. I mean, I'm sure as a kid I was kind of like, whatever. Although I think I had a crush on Danny Pintauro. Not at this age. I think once he got older, but...
Oh, yeah, because he'd have been more your age, just like Alyssa Milano was my age.
Yes.
Which is why I had a crush on her.
We were similar ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost exactly the same. But yeah, I don't know. I never really enjoy them as much. But it is a cute episode, and I like the resolution at the end, and there's some cute Tony and Angela parts in it. But yeah, so just kind of and again, it has that feeling that some of these episodes have when they're not written by the core group of writers, that it's sort of like a one-off or whatever.
Yeah, right. Which is the way how they usually end up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think a 7 is I think it was a solid episode, a 7. I'll go with a 7 as well. I did enjoy the Jonathan parts. You're right, like, because sometimes when it does involve the kids or whatever, they get a little, I don't know, convoluted, or there's something missing or whatever. But I thought it was funny. I thought it was cute. Some of the scenes for him were really good, and I like the gymnastics scene a lot. Obviously, he has gymnastics experience.
Yes.
But overall, it was the episode's a 7. It was good.
Yeah.
Like, it was enjoyable. Had funny. Again, there were a few like laugh out loud moments for me. Not like, oh, that's funny, but like actual laugh out loud moments. So yeah, 7's good.
Who's the boss around here, me Or my mother? Or maybe it's you!
So for the boss, I went with Tony because I felt like, he kind of pushed to get Jonathan to go do some kind of sports a little bit, thinking it was right for him, not pushed in a selfish way.
Right.
Got him to do it, trained him in, God knows, in record time, how to be a gymnast, and who knew that Tony was an expert on
I know.
a coach.
Yeah.
So, and then even though Jonathan went and hurt himself and Angela was upset with him, in the end, she knew he was right. So
Yes.
I thought that's why I picked him as the boss, because he kind of knew what he was doing the whole time. And even in this time when Angela was upset and she came home and found out, he kind of just put his tail between his legs and went in the garage and looked for bugs. He didn't fight back.
Right.
You need to, this is what's going to happen in life, blah, blah. And he let Angela kind of figure that out on her own.
Right.
I guess Mona helped her along, which, it was kind of, for me, it was a little bit of a struggle between Tony and Mona, but I went with Tony.
Well, yeah, because I went with Mona.
Oh,
but
okay.
now I feel like I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know. Maybe not. Plead your case.
Mostly just because Mona is the one that said, this isn't Tony's fault. Jonathan is the way he is because you are the way you are. And so you can't be mad at him for it.
Okay.
So,
and that's not bad.
yeah, no, I see cases for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe I see cases for Tony a little more now, but I'm sticking with Mona.
Okay, yeah.
Because, we've always thought that Mona was the boss, but then when we actually do these episodes, it's so infrequent that she actually gets boss.
That's true. I think we think that in our minds just because watching the episodes, there's always some tidbit or some, I don't know.
There's always Mona doing her thing.
Right, giving some advice, something that's
Yeah.
always right, and
Right,
always
right.
rights the ship in a way.
Yeah.
So I think that's why overall we've always thought that Mona was the boss.
Right.
Exactly why also that we named this show AOOA, but how many times does Tony really say that? But always kind of remembering the show, he said it a lot.
Yes, exactly.
when it was more like variations of it, but he does say it.
Yeah.
But anyway. No.
Okay. All right. Well, you can reach us at Who's the Boss Podcast on Instagram or Who's the Boss Pod 1 on Twitter. On Facebook, we have a page called the Who's the Boss Podcast page. Or you can go to anchor.fm/WTB podcast, and there you can leave a voice message. Also, leave us an AOOA. I've heard people chattering about the possibility of doing it, but I don't think we have any of them yet. So please, come on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next episode we're going to cover is called Semi-Private Lives.
Oh, boy.
Jeffrey's back. Jeffrey with a G. Yep. And it's a lot of just awkwardness.
Excellent.
So that should be fun. Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and tell all your friends and give you a big pat on the back. Bye. I added some extra.